Yeah. Okay. So we know that even just in the way that a lot of you came in and talking about the fear that is behind some of the advances in social media and trying to keep up and not knowing what your kid's doing, and the stories that you hear that scare the crap out of you because they're out there. What we want to do is to focus a little bit on the positives of what social media and technology bring. Now, granted, I'm going to throw these up there, and even in my own mind, to be honest, like when I think of technology and digital age, I think like 80% negative and 20% positive. So these are things that I like really need to hold on to and focus, as parents, focus on the good things and use technology. Now, the thing is that technology is a tool, just like anything else. It can be used for good, it can be used for evil. So as parents, what we're trying to do is get our kids to have the wisdom to use the tool wisely. So here are some of the ways they can use it well that they're already doing. All right, I'm sure most of them are already doing this. The first one is it has obviously huge benefits for learning and creativity. Obviously, Westlake is fully bought into the effects that it has on learning. iPads all the way down to what grade do they get? Kindergarten. So kindergarten, all right, they're starting to experiment with how to learn with technology and use it. And I mean, just in our own lives, I have ended so many debates around dinner tables just being able to pull out my phone and look up what year this movie came out and won the championship. Like, so useful and so helpful. And when you talk to teens about what they most appreciate about technology, some of them will mention, I have the ability to use Photoshop and to pull pictures together to create works of art that was not even close to being possible a decade ago. And so if you can focus them in that, here, this is good for learning and creativity, you can do things you've never been able to do, and also nobody has ever done before because of the tools in front of you. That's obviously a big positive. The second one is it's easier to meet people with similar interests and values because, again, you have a lot more connecting points. And so depending on, kids used to use Facebook and they would put their favorite movies, their favorite bands, who they liked. You can find people that, there's tons of stories out there in our kids about how they made friends with people simply because they saw that somebody else had posted either they went to a concert that they liked or they went to a movie. It's a great conversation starter on similar interests. So that actually kind of benefits the relationship, making process, especially for some kids that wouldn't know how to start a conversation otherwise, maybe too awkward, but they see something that they can identify with. We tried to word this well. Charbonneau used the great image of the Greco-Roman world becoming small right before Christ came into the world, how Christ used the connectivity of the Greco-Roman world to spread the gospel quickly. And that is kind of, in a sense, making the world small is what technology has done for us today. So it is an amazing platform for ministry and for enacting social change. If any of you are on Twitter, you know that at times the End It movement, talking about ending sex trafficking and human slavery, that has garnered a huge following on Twitter. And it is a way to, in a sense, promote ministry and promote a platform of change that changes the world faster than we've ever known before. So that's a great positive as well. Again, like Kyle was already talking about, he covered this better than I would have anyway, there's a chance for introverts to find a voice, to be able to craft something, to post something on social media. If they're too scared to actually talk to a person, they can like their photo and maybe make a comment on it and kind of test the waters that way, where they never would get the guts to do that in a social setting. Okay, and as parents, some of you are thinking, well, that's part of the maturing process. If they didn't have it, maybe they would get the guts to eventually ask it. But you know what? We can speculate all day long. We're never going to know. And the biggest one, and I think the one that we use it the most for and would promote the most for, is that you get to stay connected with friends and family that are far away. And I grew up and I saw my grandparents in Oregon once a year, if I was lucky, probably once every 2 years. We went out for Christmas. I didn't really know them that well. And if we had Skype back then, I am positive that I would have known them extremely well. But they would have gotten to see me grow up. We'd have connected in a lot of ways. And the same with friends, Man, back when I had friends at camp, we would write snail mail to each other. That would obviously fall off during the year because of how long and boring that is to wait for. But that's not an issue today. You can stay connected to people that you meet, and you can stay connected to your family. I think that's the one I can really get sold on. That's the biggest positive. There are some cons to technology. We're going to get into some of those right now. Okay. So here's some things that we've just seen as kind of noticeable downsides to technology. We'll start big. Pornography, sexual images. there is much earlier exposure to pornography now than there ever was before. We're living in what we call porn is the norm culture. All right, that's the term that's out there. Pornography is on billboards if you're going to define pornography like you have for the past century. But hardcore pornography is super easy to access. In having conversations with my high school students, they range from freshmen to seniors, but starting in the last 4 years, we started to have these conversations. There has only been one out of maybe 50 or 60 boys that I've talked to that has not seen pornography by the time they leave 7th grade. Most of them start in 6th grade, and most of them are shown pornography on a device. So, I mean, back in the day, you would hear stories about pornography was an exposure hard copy. You know, like that's how somebody found a magazine and that's how they spread it. Now, kids are just, they have it on their phone and they're showing their friends. So every single one of the kids that I talked to, their first exposure was from a friend showing them pornography on a phone or a tablet, okay? So it's a whole new way of early exposure, and it's a scary way of early exposure because it's completely out of control, you know, out of your control. And then they have rampant, once they get into it, once they have experimented with it, they have rampant access to it. It's almost impossible to completely shut down their ability to access pornography on the internet when they want to get to it. There's an overdependence that I think we've realized, an overdependence on being connected to your phone that I think we can actually identify with. Maybe sometimes we are that same sense of overdependent upon our technology. There are students, my sister-in-law was sharing with us just a couple of weeks ago. She's a small group leader in a youth group, and she has a couple students that only talk to her over text. And when they get together in person, she's awkward, she'll only say hi, there's no interaction, but then she'll go home and she'll text, and then she'll want to text all night. So there is a social retardation in the sense of the slowing down of a social development. And that's obviously problematic. And there's an inability to separate themselves from phone. When you try to enact a rule about you have to leave your phone you can't take your phone on this trip, you can't take your phone. I mean, just in our experiences, the emotional anguish that causes is a little bit disturbing. So there's an overdependence.
A lot of nods there. Yeah.
There's a big, obviously, effect on self-image and self-worth. This is especially true for girls because girls are 70% more likely to post photos online and love posting photos. It's a big, exciting thing for them. However, they're allowing what others say about them on social media or how many likes they're getting to affect their identity. That's common sense, right? When we talk about wanting these kids to have their identity shaped by the community around them, you envision surrounding them with people who are good influences, who will say positive things, who will keep the priorities at the center. And when they post things for the world to see, the world gets to comment on it, and the world is shaping their identity and how they think of themselves. And that's really problematic. I was going to just pull out my phone and read some comments on Instagram because there is this phenomena that the purpose of posting a photo for a girl on Instagram in high school is to get a ridiculous amount of comments. And they're super encouraging. That's what's really funny, well, for the most part. Unless it's like a really racy photo, and then sometimes they're bad comments. But a girl will get like 20 comments about how beautiful she is. She's perfect. There's nothing wrong with her. I love your body. Look at that butt. Like that butt though, like very in your business comments about her self-image and physicality. And in my experience, at least the kids that we follow, they're very encouraging, but in the same sense, they're setting up an idol of what it means to be a beautiful girl, and it is purely physical, it's purely on the outside, and it's purely based on what people want to say about them on social media. So there's a problem, obviously, in setting up that's where they're getting their self-image and self-worth. Okay, sexting. We differentiate this from pornography in the sense that sexting we just define as sending a sexual picture of yourself to somebody else. So pornography is, viewing other people. Sexting is a relational interconnection. Now, I thought that sexting was mainly just in news stories until about 2 weeks ago when we started to ask kids very upfront questions about sexting, where they're at right now. Most disturbing story that I heard was that at Westlake High School right now, there is there is a practice among the guys of trading sex that they've gotten from girls with each other. Of trading, like, say, hey, I've got this blonde, I'll trade you for the brunette that you have. And so they will trade sexual photos that they have. And then over time, they will stock up, like we used to trade baseball cards, they will stock up sex of naked girls in the school that they know. So one kid at Westlake has supposedly over 300 pictures, which blows my mind because that's 300 girls that have made that decision, which I didn't think, for some reason, that decision was that popular among girls to do that. And then that was the extreme of it. And then, one of our church kids was honest enough with me to say that, a couple phones ago, he had an archive of 50 such sex of naked girls on his phone that he had kind of compiled in that kind of trading thing. So sexting is that's the scariest part for me, that there is that pressure out there and girls are emulating people that they've seen do it. They're celebrities, the people that they emulate are doing this kind of thing, so they think it's normal. And it's happening, in our community and among our kids. And that's a very scary thing to think about. Cheating. So I love talking about the positives of what technology does for education. What I have also realized is that cheating has never been easier, and our kids don't blink at it. They don't think it's a big issue. It's incredible. I bring it up to them, and they get defensive, which means, deep down in their subconscious, they know it's wrong. But because everybody does it, they don't take the time to think about, maybe I shouldn't do it, or what would it look like if I didn't cheat. So there's Facebook study groups they can just download, test questions, test answers. More often than not, though, it's just homework. You hear kids say, I stayed up till midnight watching Netflix last night. I didn't do any of my homework, and then they just get all of the homework via the iPad, and then they turn it in like that, which is incredible to me. That cheating it's almost becoming a non-issue right now, and it actually goes together a little bit with the next one, which is constant distraction. I had a student tell me the story, which I thought was hilarious. So, all the high school students get iPads. They have iPads in class with them. And I asked them, what do you use your iPad for? Like, what do you do on your iPad? We play games. That's all we do is we play games during school. And I'm like, don't your teachers, don't they notice that's what you're doing? And one of them said, I'll tell you what, I got in trouble this week for the first time, and my teacher said I had to put my iPad away in my bag. And so I had to sit there and pay attention in class. And 30 seconds in, I was so bored. And I said, wait, this is what class is like? And I thought, you have got to be kidding me. That's so little attention. I mean, granted, that's not across the board, but so little attention can be paid in class because they have this technology. They can do whatever they want. And it is so easy to just hide it. So easy to back out and hit that home screen, pretend like nothing is going on. But, boys talking about watching March Madness, I have much more sympathy for, It seems like they're constantly distracted in school. And again, I think that ties into, they're not paying attention in class, they're not doing their homework in class. They either jam their homework in at night, or they show up the next day and download somebody else's homework, okay? Now, I don't want to oversell it, but I don't think I can undersell it based on what I've heard. And that's just me, all right? Just my personal experience with it. And the thing that hurts me most is thinking about how in the world we continually ask these kids, how are your quiet times been? Have you met with God? Have you found time to pray? Have you found God in your personal life? And I think that so many of them don't even know how to begin the process of divorcing their mind from the constant stream of information, social media, and fun that is technology, to begin to meet with God in silence. If our God whispers to us when he talks to us, how can these kids possibly hear him whispering over the noise that is social media and technology that kind of consumes their lives from the moment they wake up, first thing they do is check their phone, to the moment they go to sleep? And I think a lot of you know that most of our kids sleep with phone in hand or phone in bed or phone on nightstand right next to bed, and they can't separate themselves from that piece of technology. So how in the world does our God fit into that picture for them? So those are some of the scary things at the end, right? Okay, any questions? Questions or answers? Do you guys have answers for us?
Yeah.
Sorry.